Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Today we have a new guest for you, Horace Lewis, a laundromat owner from Montgomery, Alabama. And he's going to be sharing with us his journey. And we're going to talk a little bit about when it's time to buy new equipment. When have you outgrown your facility? Or is there something else you should try? So make sure you stay tuned for that.
Yeah, in today's episode, we just want to feature, before we jump into the episode, we just want to feature our new Laundromat Millionaire insurance program. We have business partners that have been insurance brokers in the industry for over 30 years. If you didn't hear about that, I shared it on social media. We're going to be having them on the podcast in a month or two. But we're excited to announce this because, to be honest with you, insurance is just always such a sticky, hairy thing, but more so right now than ever before with all the premiums going up and me hearing about people that can't get insurance at all at any price. We are insuring people every day through the Laundromat Millionaire Insurance Program, offering very competitive rates. And our new business partners in that venture are incredibly knowledgeable. We're talking 30 years experience in not just insurance, but in insuring laundromats and dry cleaning facilities. So go to our website, laundromatmillionaire.com, and check out the services page. Look for that partnership page, and you can fill out a request a quote right there, which is totally free. And our business partners will jump on the phone and give you a quote and take a look at your policy and see if we can maybe save you some money or at least improve the coverage that you have. You don't want to be underinsured. I can tell you that for sure. But all right, listen, let's jump into the episode and talk with our new friend Horace, and we'll see you on the other side.
We have people that walk in the front door and they look and they turn around and leave. Here's another opportunity. You're going to need some more equipment. Anything that I try to do it at a high level. You've given me a blueprint on how to get to the third one.
All right. So hi, Horace. Welcome to the show today. Thanks for applying to be a guest on the Laundromat Millionaire Show. We are excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you're in Alabama. It's probably a little warmer down there than it is up here in Cincinnati, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's cold here today.
Yeah, I bet. Well, listen, it is great having you on the show today. We've seen some pictures of your store. You have our stores. You have beautiful laundromats down there, and we are excited to share your experience in the industry and your story with our guests and our viewers today. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We know how busy everybody is, especially when you're a business owner.
Especially at first, because you're still, let's see, you started in 2021. So you're still in those first few years where I'm guessing you're still developing your team and your support and everything. Yeah.
I call that the firefighter stage. You just go around putting out fires. That's all you do.
That's it.
You're like, where's the fire? I'm heading that way. Which I remember that. And that's a fun time, but a rough time too. So anyways, well, listen, let's get into the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And we know you're down in Alabama, but tell us, about your childhood and your upbringing and what brought you to the laundromat industry, because I think that's a little bit interesting.
Born and raised in Montgomery, Alabama. Played a lot of sports when I was younger.
Okay.
Basketball and football, mostly. I had a grandfather who owned a small grocery store right here in Montgomery. So that was my first point of view of someone owning a business.
That is amazing. How often do we hear that? We hear that all the time. People that are in the laundromat business, that their family started out in the either car wash business or the grocery store, mom and pop grocery store,
or like convenience store. A lot of that, a lot of small stores.
Yeah. So how old were you when they had that? Is this like childhood, like 5 years old?
I think I was, like, far as I can remember. So I think maybe 3, 4, 5, all the way up until I was in college. So he owned that store for like a long time.
Did you grow up helping out in his store?
So my brother helped out first, and I helped out a little bit, but he used to always make me sweep for free gum because he said I could use the work for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I didn't really understand it, but now that I have my own business and I have my own grandchild, when she comes in, she wants some candy. I always say, we might need to teach you how to do some work around here.
Teach them how to work.
Yep. Teaches you a good work ethic. We have a lot of kids that don't have that nowadays. So
that's right.
Gotta instill that.
For sure. So what was that like growing up at the grocery store? Did that make you want to own your own business someday? Or I've heard both sides of the equation, made you not want to have anything to do with the business?
It sort of did. Because from that point on, I started paying attention to other members of my family. So I had an uncle. He had cerebral car lots, and I was like, man, I really want to be a businessman, right? So not necessarily a business owner, but I wanted to be a businessman early on in life. And it wasn't until I got into college and I came back home from college to where I got introduced to real estate, because that was my first dabbling in business.
What kind of real estate were you in? Was this like flipping properties or buying them and renting them out? Or did you have multifamilies or?
Well, at that point in my life, I was in my early 20s. So I went to real estate school to be a real estate agent.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I was a real estate agent for like 3 years. And being that young, no one trusts you kind of the purchase, right?
Yeah.
So, but I studied and I knew everything about real estate. And so I had talked with another real estate agent, and I asked him, I said, man, why am I not successful in doing this? He said, well, a couple of reasons. He said, because you're young, people don't trust you. And then he said, you may want to look at getting in on the other side. I said, well, what is the other side? He said, why not look at being a real estate investor? I was like, light bulb went off, right? But here's the thing. He said, you're going to need some money.
That was my thought. I'm like, it sounds great to be an investor, but investors need money to invest.
It's going to need some money. So I was like, well, where do I get money from? Hey, you got to figure that part out on your own. So I had to go and get a job. So I put real estate to the side, but I still studied and understood real estate. So I went and got a job, and I worked for Coca-Cola. And while working at Coca-Cola, I learned a lot about marketing, because they teach you a lot about marketing and where they want their product at in the stores, where people like product flow or customer flow, like the positioning of the cans, and make sure that they face right and they look a certain kind of way. And at that moment, I was just learning everything about marketing. So from that point, I left Coca-Cola and I ended up at a car manufacturer. And I found out I could make way more money just working a lot of overtime. So when I began to work a lot of overtime, I began to put that money up, because I knew this is my way to become a real estate investor.
Nice.
And here comes 2008. So, but what I understood going into 2008 was, I can't remember who said this, but every economic downturn teaches you something about economics. And if you know how to enter that economic downturn the right way, then you can create wealth from that downturn. And at that point in time, I had some money saved up, and homes in my area, they were going for a real good price. So I started buying up just a lot of property, working more overtime, and just like, I was almost going broke just buying property. But I understood what the return was. I didn't think it was a waste of money. So real estate really became my core business at that time. And I worked at the manufacturer for 14 years. So 14 years of my life. I ended up making it to management at the manufacturer.
Well, it sounds like your prior career, though, before becoming kind of entrepreneurially on your own, was really preparing you with a whole big skill set. You said, with Coca-Cola, you were learning all kinds of stuff about marketing. And now you can use that for your own businesses. And then the manufacturing, you got to learn how to manage people. And I'm sure about processes and procedures and efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. So even though you weren't an entrepreneur straight out of the gate, when, being a realtor wasn't what worked for you, you had jobs that were definitely setting you up for success to be in the laundromat industry or really any industry.
Yes. I guess if I would tell anyone, whenever you're working a job, try to learn as much as possible, because working these jobs will teach you how to run a business. If I know how to work in a multi-billion-dollar company, and they teach you about KPIs and OS&D and scrap and how to really know where your money comes from and how to save money. I mean, running a small business should be fairly easy, right?
Should be.
It should be. So I just took all of that and just learned from it. And it really, like you're saying, set me on the right path to own my own business.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I worked at, I don't know if you know my story, Horace, but I worked at Cincinnati Bell, which is the local phone company here in Cincinnati, for about 17 years before we got into business for ourselves. And I tell you what, that time there was, I started at 19 years old, so I knew nothing about nothing. I didn't know anything about the world. To be honest with you, I was a baby. And I tell you what, by the time I left there, I'd been promoted 5 different times, worked in 5 different departments, sales, customer service, marketing, and even the technical trades. I was the guy that climbed the telephone poles and fixed the phone lines and stuff at the end of my career. So I even worked in the technical side of the business near the end. In every aspect of the business that I worked in, I didn't realize I was learning anything. I mean, I was just trying to make a living and get promoted. And do my job the best I could.
I used to say, I'm just working for a paycheck.
Yep. But when I left there and I got my first business, I actually worked there for 4 years when we bought our first 2 stores. I worked at my job and I worked running the laundromats both for 4 years. And that overlap, I cannot tell you how helpful a lot of those things were. And there are still small things, not really big things, but small things that we do in our business today here in Cincinnati that are directly correlated to things I learned from either, maybe it wasn't the company, maybe it was just a boss that I had, or maybe it was even a coworker that was in the cube next to me or whatever. And I had no idea that whole time that I was learning any skills. I was just working a job, trying to pay my bills and take care of my family. And I look back on that now and I'm so grateful. Some of that time I was there, I had some bosses I didn't really care for.
But you learned things from them too.
It did, for sure.
Sometimes it's what not to do.
Sometimes what not to do. 100%. So I guess I hear it in your voice that you're grateful for that experience. And I feel the exact same way. And I know by coaching many other laundromat owners, I know many people feel the same way. So, sometimes when we're young and we want to be an entrepreneur, and, the first go of being a real estate agent or whatever doesn't work out, sometimes if you're listening out there, I guess I'm going to speak directly to the audience. If you're listening out there and you're young and you're wondering, man, why isn't this happening yet? Something is happening. Take a deep breath, look around, and you said it really well. You're learning, whether you realize it or not. And you're going to learn by default. But if you can be intentional, which is what I heard you say, about the business attributes and the skill sets and the different things that you learn, if you can look at your business through the lens of a training ground, it's going to make you a much better entrepreneur. I don't know anyone that doesn't feel that way, even if they worked at a job they hated. There's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right. They want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, so they ship in only a few weeks and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today or visit draintroughs.com. So what happened from there? So you got into the real estate. Why did you not just keep going with real estate? How did you end up in the laundromat industry?
So I had scaled my real estate business up to where I own 15 single family properties.
Wow. Okay.
And so I had another family member who was in gaming, skill games, right?
Okay.
Is this like the coin pusher machines and stuff like that?
No, these are like almost like slot machines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But you
Like
can't put money in it.
Okay. You can't put money in them, so they only take like tokens?
Well, you have to put money on a card, and then it has like a number to log in. See,
Okay.
So in certain cities in Alabama, skill games are legal, but slot machines are not.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same thing in Ohio. So like in our laundromats, we have coin pusher machines where you put in quarters and whatever, but there has to be, not all coin pushers are legal. There has to be some skill to it, like a stop and go button or where you direct the shot or something like that. So
that's how they get around those. That's how they get around those laws. So you're saying the same thing, only with electronic games.
Yes. And it looks, flows, it flips almost like a slot, but it's just visual. So I moved from manufacturing into being part owner, and I was the manager of 2 locations up in Birmingham, Alabama.
So like with these locations, would they be like just full of those games, or did you put those in other retail environments? Like were they put into restaurants and laundromats and things like that, or it was a standalone location of just those games?
Standalone location.
Oh, wow.
Full of those games. We had a staff of people that I had to hire, manage, do payroll, marketing. So I was responsible for that. Budgeting, how much I was spending on food, prizes. So again, here I go, leaning on what I've learned from my previous jobs. And also learning about like commercial leases.
So do you still own these locations or did you leave that partnership?
So here we go again with another economic downturn. So when COVID hit, we all had to close down.
Interesting.
Because these are not essential businesses, right?
Yep.
Gambling isn't essential? What?
I know, right? What?
Exactly.
So, but while I was at home during COVID, I really dug into you all's podcast, start looking around thinking, man, what can I do next? And when the government said that laundry is an essential business, right, I was like, you know what? This may be my next move.
Interesting.
I just kept watching you all's podcasts and other podcasts, driving around my city, seeing what the laundromats look like, right? Seeing what the competition could possibly be. And saw some pictures of you all stores, and I was like, you know what? We need something like that here. So that's when I really got inspired.
All right, so tell us about your journey into the business. So we know that Carla inspired you because she gets people really excited about laundromats.
I get so passionate about the laundry
She gets so
industry.
passionate. So tell us about the journey of kind of you decided, this might be the industry for you. And then I think I kind of interrupted you there, but you were telling us how, you start looking around the laundromats in your community and you notice they're all kind of run down. What happened from there? Did you make an offer on any? Did you find one for sale? What was that journey like?
So I contacted a friend of mine who I used to work with because he used to always tell me about laundry, right? I didn't ask him exactly how much money did he make at his laundry, but he told me anyway, right? And he was frank about it could be a lot more if he was in a different location, if he was in the right location. He said, man, laundromats can do a lot better depending on where they are, right? So I asked him in a roundabout way, if I found a nice location, would you like to partner up? He said, well, I tell you what, find a location first. He said, because that'll be the toughest thing, right? So I began to look around my city and I found a location near Walmart.
Oh.
And
that's a good place.
By Walmart, I mean, you walk out the front door, it takes you 3 minutes. So you can go to Walmart
do some shopping, and walk over to the laundromat and do your laundry. All in the same place, right?
Plus the visibility. I mean, because Walmart's so
traffic.
busy.
Yeah.
So the traffic and visibility your laundromat's getting, it's great.
So here's the other good part about it. It's 4 apartments that surround that whole shopping center.
Nice.
So we have customers that actually walk to the laundromat. And the nearest laundromats in that area may be 4 miles to 3 miles out.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot of our customers say, well, we used to go to that one, but now we come here because it's closer. And I live right there.
So it's definitely a great location. Was it already a laundromat there, or was this like a white box? Like, what was the situation?
It used to be a Boost Mobile.
Okay.
And it's 2,000 square feet. That's the total square footage of it. And here we go with inflation and COVID. We were going to build out the entire 2,000 square feet. But when we began to do the math on it and prices started going up, we were like, hey, look, let's just do half of it. So we only did like a couple hundred square feet up. And we did 17 washers and 18 dryers.
Okay.
But even during that process, prices kept going up. So it became really tough to do that. But just to backtrack a little bit, I found a great distributor out of Marietta, Florida. Washers Ours. Mr. Mike Baxter. Great guy. Right. So I called him because I was going to go with Speed Queen.
Well,
and I end up going with Hitch. So, but he can get me both of them.
yeah, they're both Alliance products.
Yes. So he came up and he looked at the location and we went to lunch.
So tell us about this store. So did you end up acquiring or building this small 1,000 square foot store, you said?
So we did build it out, and I was the general contractor. And that was something that was new. Very eye-opening. Very eye-opening. Very eye-opening.
So you stayed right on budget and stayed right on time, right?
Never.
Well, to your credit, you were also doing this like during COVID type times, which
Sure.
we did construction on our biggest store at that time, and nothing could be done on time.
Or budget. Or budget.
And nothing could be done on budget. So you really had the cards stacked against you.
You did for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so COVID happened and you started looking at laundromats. How soon did you get the space, and then how long did it take before it actually opened?
So finding the space was pretty quick because I used to live in that area.
Okay.
I purchased my first house in that area, so I knew anywhere Walmart is, I already know it's a lot of foot traffic, and so I wanted to be near something to where we didn't have to spend a lot of money on advertising. So found the location, and we started working in April of 2020.
Oh, so soon after COVID started.
Yes. And we opened February of 21.
Okay, so a little less than a year.
Less than a year.
That's honestly not horrible when you had to build up the whole infrastructure and everything. So I know you feel like as your own contractor in a time where everything was stacked against you, but really less than a year isn't that bad.
Well, and with supply chains and this being your first store and you doing it sounds like a lot of the work yourself. Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. So
not that bad.
Yeah, no, not at all. So tell us about when you got the store open. What was that like? Did they just start throwing their money at you?
No. So I'm gonna give some nuggets from a newbie's point of view, okay?
Yeah.
So the first mistake that we made, we got a real nice LED sign, and it's our logo. But the logo does not say the word laundromat. So when people passed the store, they didn't know it was a laundromat. All right. So
especially since yours hadn't been a laundromat, because that's a
Correct.
different obstacle. If you take over a laundromat, you don't have quite that hill to climb. But with
Correct.
yours being a T-Mobile or Boost Mobile or whatever it was, they didn't know. Okay.
And in order to get to the location, you have to come down a hill to get to Walmart. So you can't see it from the road.
Oh.
Mm.
All right. So you have to use the word laundromat.
Okay.
I got a banner made that says laundromat, extremely big, now open. And I put it outside of the store. So people start to come in a little more then because it was, oh, that's a laundromat. But we had already been open for maybe 2 months at that point. But it wasn't until I activated the Google ad was where we really start to see more traction.
Want more profits out of your laundromat business? Let us tell you about our new company, Laundroboost, and how it can help you to boost your profits. You may be thinking you've used digital marketing companies before and they wasted your time and money. Well, that's why Laundroboost was born. As 14-year veteran laundromat operators ourselves, we've been there, and it's sickening.
So what makes Laundroboost different? Our team combines technical digital marketing with veteran laundromat operators and coaches to give your campaigns the ideal blend for getting you results. But then we take it a step further with our strategy. Our strategy is to be hyper vigilant with every marketing dollar, so no fluff.
Yeah, in the beginning, we focus on a 3-pronged approach that we think is unique in the industry. The first is website design and landing pages, making sure those are honed in properly. The second is daily analytics studies and strategy with your Google AdWords campaigns. And the third is geofencing. It focuses on your nearest competitors and where your ideal customers live and where they shop. We believe we've got something special, and we've spent our own dollars here in Cincinnati to test it, and we're growing faster now than ever before.
To learn more, schedule a free discovery call and market study for your market. Visit laundroboostmarketing.com today.
We use Hips Pay, and we give the cash back when you use the app.
Okay.
At that time, that was the only laundromat that was doing it. So people began to understand how to use the app, how to use the cash back. And then I also started promoting Double Point Wednesdays because looking at my numbers, Wednesday was the worst day.
Yeah.
So
I think it
wanted-
is for everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
So I wanted to try to create or get people to change their Sunday date to Wednesday by giving double points on Wednesday. So if you spend $10, it's like you spend $20. And whenever you get 20 points per every dollar, then you get another free $3.
Nice.
So Wednesday began to pick up a little bit. And just over a period of time, word of mouth, people in the neighborhood, people going to Walmart.
So have you had to expand to your other 1,000 square feet yet, or are you still just using half the space?
We're using half of the space, and that's a problem now. On Saturdays and Sundays, we have people that walk in the front door and they look and they turn around and leave because they can't get a washer and they can't get a dryer.
Yep.
And that's what my distributor told me early on. He was like, I'm not trying to oversell you on anything or upsell you. He said, but I think you're going to need some more equipment faster than what you think. And he was right. He was right.
If you'd had it to do over, would you have done the full 2,000 square feet? Because one thought I would have with that is, so you only developed half of it, right?
Yes.
Is the back half just like storage or something?
It's empty. Like we keep some stuff back there, but it's just it's not paying for itself. So to answer your question, yes. If I had to do it all over again, I would have built out the entire store. Yeah.
Even if you would have built out the entire store to be a 2,000 square foot laundromat, but started off maybe with some extra sitting and folding room, not filling it up with machines that it could, as many machines as you would want there, eventually. But going ahead and having that space, and then now instead of having to develop another 1,000 feet and kind of changing your whole layout to encompass that extra 1,000 feet, if you were to do that, you would already have the layout plan for 2,000 feet, but you just wouldn't have it all filled in yet. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. So what we did, we set it up for more equipment. So we already have like enough tankless water heaters for like another 17 wash.
Oh, okay. So you did some of that.
Yes. So we did the drain pipe. It's a 6-inch drain pipe. So it can drain like another 17 washes. But we just didn't see the idea that you just gave. We should have done that as well. Just added more seating, right?
Yeah.
And put more folding area in there. I mean, awesome idea.
So I know many people that have taken it doesn't matter the size, but a certain size square foot location and decided they build out the infrastructure for all, meaning bulkheads and plumbing and electric and things like that. And then they just skin over the bulkhead rather than putting washers or dryers there. And like you said, they'll put seating and folding and things like that. And I would say it's almost 50-50 of the people that do that. There's kind of a cat and mouse game kind of going on with this. It's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So I know about 50% of the people that have built out half the space with plans for expansion never expand. And about 50% of the people that do that end up expanding. Now, that's just a very general comment over thousands of conversations. So there is something to be said for taking a more conservative strategy, at least with the equipment, because that's, the lion's share of the cost, and building it out. But there is something to be said for, you're not going to get the business till you have the equipment. So like, it's tough to, you really have to be in a market and a competitive sub-market, I would say, or where the laws of supply and demand are tipped in your favor for you to build out 1,000 square foot, but to get so busy you need 2,000 and then build out the second 1,000. Like does that make sense? So, for anyone that's listening and including you, Horace, I don't want you to feel like you did anything wrong. Carla has a great idea that a lot of people do. I guess what I'm getting at is it's about a 50-50 proposition as to whether either one of them works. And if you want to take a more conservative approach to your investment because it's so capital intensive, I actually tell people if you're not sure which way to go when I'm coaching them, then I'm going to defer to the more conservative approach. And if I leave some money on the table, I'd rather do that than build out a space that's a little bit too big for my market or for my sub-market or the competitive rate in that area. It is kind of a 50-50 proposition. So, I always think it's better to be a little bit more conservative. So I don't know that you necessarily did the wrong thing. And that being said, if you did build out your bulkheads and things like that, if you haven't already, you can very easily, spend $100,000 and drop some more washers and dryers in there. And a lot of times you already have the demand before you fill in the supply.
Well, and another argument kind of against developing the whole space, like you said, you have another 1,000 feet that is storage, you put stuff back there, whatever. But if you are looking at becoming a full service laundry center, which I know, not to divulge too much of your story, but that you are, that gives you storage room. If you're going to have drop off, if you're going to do pickup and delivery, you have that extra 1,000 square feet that you can use for that. So if you are hoping to become a full service laundry center, you might purposely not develop everything, knowing that you're going to need that space for a different service too. So,
yep, that's exactly right. The last thing I wanted to throw out there, I coach people on this all the time. And we also have to remember that when the supply demand ratio of the market is off. So let's go back to the 1,000 square foot that's booming with business and you wish you had more space. I actually disagree with any distributor that will tell you need to go buy more equipment first. Now, that's typically what they'll tell you because they sell equipment, right? And I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong or they're dishonest. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm saying is they believe every time they sell you a washer and dryer, it's going to make you money. And that isn't necessarily wrong, but it isn't necessarily the first move you should make. So if you have a 1,000 square foot store and you're considering spending a few $100,000 more to get that excess space, the first thing you want to do when it comes to that supply demand ratio is raise your prices. Because when you raise let's say you have, and I'm going to make these numbers up. Let's say you have 280s, 260s,
440s and 420s, right? And you're just booming. You're doing freaking 10 turns a day, right? The distributor is going to tell you need more 80s, you need more 60s, especially if your turns per day are higher on your larger capacity machines. And what I will tell you as an independent coach who doesn't care if I don't sell you washers or dryers, what I will tell you is you need to raise your prices first. And then I tell people to let that marinate for about a quarter, about 3 months. Let it marinate. Take that in. See how the community responds. If business drops down to a reasonable number, not that it would, but let's say it drops from 10 to 3, well, then you didn't need more equipment, right? The supply-demand ratio, you were right at that tipping point. But what you wanted to do instead is raise your prices and generate more revenue, more profit per turn without increasing your expenses or borrowing more money or anything like that.
And less wear and tear on your equipment.
Yes. So you're going to generate more profit. Now, your revenue might actually go down if your turns per day drop. But if your profit per turn goes up, you can generate more profit with less gross revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when I refer to the quarter, 3 months, let it marinate for 3 months. Don't make any quick decisions. Then what I tell people is if your turns per day stay the same, then you have more profit. Now, a lot of people think the next thing I'm going to tell them in a coaching call is to go buy more equipment now, but it's not. I'm going to tell them to raise their prices again. Because just because you raised it the first time, and this depends on how much you raise them to, if you go up 25%, that's a big number. If you go up 2%, that's probably not even going to move the needle. But what you want to try to do is over the course of a quarter, another quarter, you want to try to figure out where that supply-demand ratio starts to turn away from your favor. And once you find it there, then you let that marinate. And if you've got an 80-pound machine, for example, ours are $13 for an 80-pound machine in our store. I know people charging $15, $16. If you get to $18, $20 on an 80-pound machine, and you can't really justify, other than price gouging, you can't really justify any more, and you still have the demand after letting it marinate for a quarter, another quarter, now you know that what you actually have is a supply-demand ratio that you've tried to manipulate, right? You've tried to manipulate it in your favor when it comes to profitability and net profits, and you haven't been able to do it. That tells me the demand is so high that yes, you need to expand. And the beauty is if you let those quarters marinate 1 quarter at a time, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 quarters, a year. A year later, you're going to probably have the down payment for the equipment you need to go buy for your expansion.
Because during that year, your revenue was going,
your profits were going.
Because you were raising prices without chasing people off.
You weren't chasing anyone off. And if you chased them off, you were more profitable doing less business and you don't need the expansion. So laundromat owners, hear me very clearly here, because I do this every day. Distributors, hear me very clearly. I'm not telling you distributors are bad people because they sell washers and dryers. I'm telling you that's how they feed their babies. That's how they make money. And if you're at 8, really even 5, but 6, 7, 8 turns per day, their immediate answer is going to be the final answer, right? And they're not wrong. They're just early, right? They're not dishonest. They're not trying to sell you something you don't need. They're just jumping ahead because that's what they do. They sell washers and dryers, and they believe that most distributors believe that more machines equals more revenue, and it doesn't. Manipulate the laws of supply and demand with our price, and then add equipment. And if you follow it the right way, you may find you don't need more equipment. You find those supply-demand ratios were only off by 20%. And you didn't need to increase supply by 50%. And if you had, you would have made less profit and just had a bigger note, right? So that's on the distributor side, but also the operator side. The same thing can apply to supply-demand ratios with pickup and delivery. If you're struggling to find good people and you're struggling to find a good team, and you have 3 rock stars, but man, you can't find 4, 5, and 6, okay, raise your prices. Your gross volume will go down, your profitability will go up, while your fixed expenses stay the same, and you will make more profit doing less work. Now, that can also just be a temporary thing. Like during COVID, we really struggled to hire people, right? Nobody wanted to leave home. Nobody wanted to work. Everybody was scared, all that stuff, right? So that's one of the things we did. With our pickup and delivery business, we were booming. We were growing like crazy. And I couldn't hire people. Didn't matter what we paid them. I mean, we know what we're doing in hiring and training and stuff. And we couldn't find more people. My prices went up 25%. Well, I never brought them back down. Eventually the demand caught back up, or the supply caught back up with the demand. And we now have a more profitable business because of it. And of course, now we've added to the supply side of the ratio. So this lesson applies to self-serve, drop off, pickup and delivery. You know, Carla, we've had conversations around what I call free labor, where you grow a drop-off business to the point where it exceeds the attendance time in the store, and it's time to bring in a second attendant. Instead of bringing in a second attendant, raise your prices. If demand doesn't go down, raise your prices again. If it doesn't go down again, and then when you get to what you believe is the top of the market, then bring in a second attendant, and your profitability will be so much higher you can justify the higher labor costs. These lessons apply to every aspect of business, even outside of our industry. The problem is that and once again, not suggesting they're bad people. There are some bad people, but I'm not suggesting distributors are bad. We love great distributors, but that's where they're going to go first. And if you don't have an independent coach coaching you through a process like this, it makes all the sense in the world. Everything they say makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, how am I possibly going to make any more money or do any more business if I don't increase supply? Well, the way you are is by making more money per customer, right? Your profit margins go up on a per unit basis. This is how us as operators should be making operational business decisions. We should always be looking at profit first, because the worst thing you can do is scale a business that's semi-profitable. You want your business to be optimized. You want your business, no matter what the revenue stream is, to be maxed out before you go add another location. So hopefully that helps some people out there. I know I dominated a little bit, but I don't know that we've ever talked about that publicly. I do it daily on coaching calls and even in the workshop and things like that. But I think that'll help a lot of people out there that may never, be able to afford coaching or whatever. Maybe they have a smaller store. Always say, how can I make more profit without spending money first? And you're going to find low-lying fruit in there. You're going to find meat on the bone you hadn't found yet. And when you find that, you'll be able to either take it home, save it up in the bank, let it pay for the new equipment a year from now. And it just requires a slight tweak in our operational strategy and how we look at profit margins and things like that. People get so excited about expanding the store, and I went from 1 store to 8 in 2 years and all these things. And I'm like, I can poke 10 different holes in that business model and why that might be the right thing to do, but you don't know because you haven't tested this first. And that's just a part of why we do this show. So I wanted to make sure that got included in here.
That Horace kind of has already addressed this, because one of your issues that you said is that it's too busy on Sundays, which a lot of people, they feel like they need to expand because they're too busy this day and this day. Mm-hmm. But if you're not too busy the other days, I liked your strategy of, the double point Wednesday, like trying to move customers to other days of the week. Yep. And you could do that with pricing as well, which you're doing it with kind of a benefit. But now with modernized equipment, you could even do scheduled pricing if you wanted, where maybe Sunday was more expensive and Wednesday was cheaper or whatever. Just trying to move those people around and make the most out of the equipment you already have, which is really Dave's point.
That's exactly right.
Are you optimizing the equipment you currently have before you go investing in new equipment?
Before you buy another truck, before you hire another person, before you expand a store, before you go from 3 to 4 stores, what can I do to try to generate more revenue, more profit off of less revenue or the same revenue first? Mm-hmm. We may end up there, but we'll end up there much more profitably. That's another great example. The double reward points.
So back to your story.
Yeah.
So you now have 2 locations. So lead us to, how did you go from 1 location to 2 locations? Tell us about that.
I just started looking around again, and I found like a little, like a dead spot in the city. And it was like right up from our current location.
By dead spot, you mean like it was an area that didn't have any laundromats nearby that were serving that community? No. Okay.
And the number of apartments that are in that area in a 3-mile radius is like 15 apartment complexes.
Mm.
So I went in every apartment complex washroom, if they had a washroom, right? If they didn't offer a washroom, the washer and dry hookups, you can only fit, X amount of size of a washer or
Yeah,
dryer.
those small little double stack things.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So I knew,
Here's another opportunity.
but my partner wasn't ready. But I was ready. And this time around, I began to look for a location where I can do everything in. Like I wanted to do pickup and delivery, drop off, and I wanted to have an attendant, because we don't have an attendant at other locations.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because at this point, I feel as though what we did at the first location showed us something that the community really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to offer like another scale of that, because no one else in the city was doing what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the second location came out of, I would say, fear of someone else beating us to it and snatching some of that market. So I just decided, look, I go and I do it. So that's how I ended up with the second location.
I love that. You didn't overanalyze. You're like, I see this prime opportunity. I'm going to take it.
Yes. And the demographics told me that it was good. And I used the same distributor, and he told me that this location shouldn't affect my first location.
Mm-hmm.
Far enough away.
Yeah.
So was it an existing laundromat, or did you use another white box? Is it leased? Do you own the property?
Okay, so this location is a standalone, and it used to be a bank.
Yes.
And it's locally owned. And so I showed them some pictures of how I wanted to do it and what I already own. And they were ecstatic about it. So we had a conversation about, if I'm going to invest this kind of money into this location, they were like, are you interested in buying it? I was like, well, I was going to ask you if I could buy it, but just not right now, because I have to do the investment first. So we have not necessarily a price, but we have an agreement in place for me to purchase it at some point.
Awesome.
Yeah, right of first refusal. That's awesome to have.
Yeah.
So tell us about the second location. What's the size of it? You said you want the same distributor. I'm assuming you still have Hipsh.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Hipsh Pay. Is that the only payment system you have in there? Do you take coins too? Tell us about that.
Yep. So we do Hipsh Pay and we do coins.
Okay.
So the second location is 3,400 square feet.
Okay. So a lot
Nice.
bigger.
Fully attended all the
Fully
time?
attended.
Nice.
35 washers and 34 dryers. Vending machines. I have an ATM machine. I think folding tables. I have, 12 back-to-back folding tables.
I looked at pictures of this one. It's a beautiful store. It's
Yeah, so
very well done.
I was extremely thoughtful in how I wanted to flow. The color is electric line, and that came off of the Hipsh equipment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And the floors is the same. It's like a green epoxy.
Is it epoxy? I thought it looked like epoxy, which is what we have in ours as well. We love it.
Yeah. And
And let me guess, you put laundromat in really big letters this time, right?
You know I did.
I saw it on the picture.
Yep.
You learned that lesson.
I learned that lesson. Yes, I learned that lesson. And I also use Sense as a POS system.
Yep.
So we used to.
Awesome.
Anything that I try to do it at a high level.
Good for
And
you.
I try to find someone that's doing it at a high level, because they become the blueprint for me. And you have been an outstanding blueprint. Like, you really show us newbies, us people that's coming into the business, how we should approach this. Like, we should always approach this business to perform at a high level.
Right.
And take away that stigma, right?
Right.
So across the nation, people
Right.
should
Right.
look at laundromats and the
Right.
laundry business, not as, oh man,
Right.
it's so nasty, it's so dirty. I've had customers come in and say, "Oh my goodness, it is so clean in here." And then in their next breath, they'll say, "I'm so sorry, but I'm just used to going to dirty laundromat." And I have to commend you on how clean this place is. But look at how we're changing the customer's point of view of laundry. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. That means the world to us. That's exactly why we do what we do. You know, sometimes when you have the name Laundromat Millionaire, a lot of negative connotation associated with that, which is fine. We get it. We take it for what it is. But at the end of the day, we are here to help independent owners run their businesses at a different level so that you can serve your business or your community and your family at a different level. That's really what this is all about. We always say the Laundromat Millionaire thing was just a way to get your attention. You know, we can't help you. We can't talk to you. We can't teach you or coach you or whatever if we can't get your attention. So that's just a way of getting people's attention. Sometimes it's misunderstood, but we really are all here because we believe us independent owners should be collaborating together, sharing information, sharing resources to help each other improve our communities, because that's how this is done. And I got news for you. I mean, now that we're 4 or 5 years into this kind of new journey of ours, I mean, it's working. It's not, you're a perfect example of that. You know, before, you know, we had you on the podcast, we didn't really know you at all. We hadn't met you, hadn't coached you, anything like that, at least one-on-one. But here our content and other people's content, by the way, you know, Facebook groups and social media posts and things we learn from other people that we just try to share very authentically has helped you to serve your community and serve your family in a better way. So
And now you're helping
that's how
others.
this is done. That's exactly
you're
right.
Sharing.
That's exactly right. And then we put a call out for people that want to authentically share their story on the podcast and share, you know, your words of wisdom. And that's what you're here doing. And all of us laundromat owners just have to stick together because, man, there's a lot of really smart people out there in the world. If we just keep collaborating and sharing information and building relationships and exchanging email addresses and things, supporting each other versus tearing each other down, that's how we've accomplished what we've accomplished so far. And I'm pretty confident we just are just now starting to get that snowball rolling downhill. So I think we got a lot of really cool stuff happening for us. So in that light, before we let you go today, Horace, tell us about what, if you want to share, what's next for you. I mean, you're a pretty young dude. So what's next? 3, 4, 5, or what? Or did I scare you and tell you now you got to raise your prices before you can build another one? Or
actually, again, you're giving me a blueprint on how to get to the third one.
There you go. That's exactly right. Good deal. You're gonna go raise your prices tomorrow.
So I have to ask, do you have skill games in your laundromats, or are you going to put them in there?
No. I've moved completely away from
Okay.
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because I know there's some laundromat owners that, you know, love those things and
Yes, they do.
rave about them. So I was just curious.
I don't want to deal with that.
Not want to deal with it. I have heard, although, you know, some people like to talk about all the money being made. I'm sure it's true. I've heard way more headaches than
Yes.
It not all it's cracked up to be, I guess, is what I've heard.
Which we do have a couple, but
Correct.
we have someone manage them for us, and they're like a small ancillary income.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's more just like a little entertainment for people there. I wouldn't say it like pulls people in to just come for that reason. And I think some of the places that have a lot of them and make a lot of money, like they're like a whole nother clientele of people coming in just for the games even. It kind of ends up being a business unto itself. And we don't want to distract from our
Core
laundry
business.
customers, you know?
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear from you because I hear a lot of good things about how much money skill gains can make and stuff like that. And like I said, ours do okay. But yeah, to hear that you don't regret it is interesting. You seem to be very sayonara. A lot more headaches, probably a different podcast, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, it has been so cool to have you reach out to us and give us the opportunity to share your story on the show. You know, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day. All I can say is wishing you nothing but the best. Being Carla and honestly, the community here at Laundromat Millionaire, we're all here for you and for each other. So thank you for engaging us and allowing us to share your story. And for everyone back home, Dave and Carla met in Cincinnati, Ohio, and our wonderful friend Horace, who joined us today to share his experience. We will see you next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.
Right.